Week 2 has given us more clarity on the waiver wire. Starting off at QB, I have Derek Carr. Just when we counted Carr out, he pulls us back in. Carr's been phenomenal this season and is currently the QB2 overall. He's averaging 22 fantasy points per game, which is absurd when you consider he's a QB with very limited rushing ability. The Saints offense is clicking, and a big part of that is third year wideout Rashid Shaheed, who Carr really seems to be in sync with right now. Carr's been phenomenal on the deep ball on way to 443 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, and he needs to be rostered in all formats. Next, I have Geno Smith. He's the QB8 overall, and he's been rolling with Jackson Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf in the new offense. He's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game, yet he's still only rostered in 34% of leagues. He has a chance to be a QB1 this year, especially with as many quarterbacks that are struggling in the passing department right now. Sam Darnold is another solid QB available on the waiver wire. Darnold's the QB9 overall this year to date, and he just put in a QB4 performance versus the 49ers, who have a very solid defense. As long as Justin Jefferson is healthy, and remember this offense is getting TJ Hawkinson back at some point, Darnold can be a top end QB2 with borderline QB1 upside.
Get your receivers here. Get your receivers here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. These are your waiver wire pickups following week 2 for your wide receiver position. First up, this is a must-have, Demarcus Robinson. With Puka Nakua already on the IR, Cooper Kupp looks like he's possibly heading to the IR. They're going to need to throw to somebody. Demarcus Robinson of the Los Angeles Rams is that guy. He is available in almost 60% of leagues, so keep an eye out for him because he's going to be a hot commodity this week. Next up, somebody I told you guys last week to pick up, Romeo Doubs. He's still available in over 50% of leagues. And hey, everybody thought with Jordan Love going out, this was not going to be a good idea rolling with any Green Bay wide receivers, but Malik Willis didn't look so bad. Next up, Alex Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. Through 2 games, he's got 8 catches, 181 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's available in 70% of leagues, so definitely look into him. Also, Gabe Davis. Now, Gabe Davis, we know, came from Buffalo. Now he's in Jacksonville. He had 7 targets in week 2 last week. Sure, he hasn't put up a lot, but his usage is there, and it's only a matter of time before he starts putting some games together. In deeper leagues, if you're looking for a wide receiver that's 80%, 90% available, look for New York Giants Wan'Dale Robinson. I told you guys about him last week. He is getting a good share of targets, and I know that the offense leaves much to be desired in New York, but he's worth a flyer. Also, Elijah Moore, he is available in 97, 98% of leagues. He had 14 targets through 2 games. Yeah, he's not producing, but much like Gabe Davis, it's going to come. And Chargers Quentin Johnson, he is also worth a flyer in deeper leagues.
Week 2 was an exciting week in the NFL with a bunch of upsets and exciting games. Looking toward week 3, here are some running backs that you should consider adding to your fantasy roster. Antonio Gibson is worth stashing on your bench, and you can probably acquire him with a small portion of your fab budget. He had 96 rushing yards and 11 carries in week 2. And additionally, Ramondre Stevenson has missed 10 games in his first 3 NFL seasons, so any injury to Stevenson would be a huge boost to Gibson's value. Cameron Steele should also be added to your rosters heading into week 3, as he is set to take on the lead back role for the Chiefs after Pacheco went down with injury. Steele had 27 yards on 7 carries in week 2, and he could likely see between 15 to 18 touches in week 3.
Here are a few tight ends that you should definitely look to add off the waiver wire. First up, Hunter Henry, New England Patriots. He had 15 targets in the first 2 weeks, and he's been a top 10 tight end so far this season. Next, we have Mike Gesicki, Cincinnati Bengals. He had 13 targets the first 2 weeks, and he also has been a top 10 fantasy tight end. Position's not been that great so far. Next, we have Kobe Parkson, LA Rams. With Puka and Cooper Cup out, the ball has to go somewhere, and he looks to be one of the catchers along with Robinson at wide receiver. So those are a few tight ends to definitely look to add off the waiver wire. All right, for this week's debate, we're going to discuss whether or not you should be able to put players that are just out for the week in the IR spot. I'm definitely for it. Why? Because Yahoo and Sleeper still have it as their default setting, and you're hurting yourself if you don't do it. gives an edge to players that know this, and it helps you hoard more talent. And that's what it's about. It's about finding the best ways to win. And if it is a default setting or part of your league, you should definitely take advantage of it.
Listen, Josh, I get it. There's a strategy involved to it, no doubt about it. If your league is set up like that, take advantage of it. But the IR stands for injured reserve. These spot was designated. This was created for players who were going to miss a few games because of injuries. The whole out designation thing came about because of COVID 4 years ago, 4 years ago, and we're no longer in COVID, so that should no longer exist. IR is IR.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
All right, all my hot takes this week are about the NFL. First, the Dallas Cowboys defense has been exposed going back to last season against the Bills in December 2023, and they showed a good running back can carve them up. Plus, they have not been a good team since then. Next, the Packers defense is for real. It showed what they can do this past week, and if they can stay 500, look out for when Jordan Love comes back. Finally, Baker Mayfield is the top quarterback right now in fantasy football, and I believe he'll finish as a top 10 fantasy QB. So look to add him off the waiver wire if you're needing a quarterback.
Yo, forgive the hair. It is hot out here right now, and that is including my hot takes. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we do a Wrexham watch almost every week, usually every other week, just to keep an eye on Wrexham and how they're doing with. They are crushing it right now. 5 games played, 4 wins, 1 tie, top of the league. Right now, they're playing Birmingham. As I'm recording this, they're up 1-0 in the 6th minute. So they're cruising. I'm going to say they are not going to gain promotion this year. They've gained promotion the last 2 years. They're now in English Football League 1, which is the 3rd tier of English football, and they will not be promoted to the championship. In order to do that, they need to finish the top 3. I just don't see it happening. It's a long schedule, long fixture list, and I do not think that they will gain promotion.
My hot take for the week is that Deion Sanders is going to be a huge success at Colorado. The progress might be slower than some people like, but the Buffaloes have certainly improved in year 2 under Sanders. This week, Colorado took on rival Colorado State, and in a game quarterback Shedeur Sanders critics will want to forget, Shedeur threw for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Buffaloes dominated, winning 28-9, and this victory showcases an improvement over last year when Colorado State played Colorado down to the wire. You can see the pieces really starting to come together for Deion Sanders in Boulder.
In a somewhat surprising move, the Panthers are benching quarterback Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton in Week 3. The Panthers have done a disservice to Young by placing him behind an offensive line that cannot block. His weapons are average at best, and he's already on his second head coach in 2 seasons. Both Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who were previously benched by the Panthers, have found success in new homes. And with that being said, Bryce has been terrible and made baffling decisions at times, and it's apparent watching him play that his confidence is shot. So he may need a change of scenery, but I don't think you can write him off just yet.
This is a poker hand I played at TCH Social in Austin, Texas. In this hand, we were playing 1-2-5. Action folded to me in the big blind, and I chose to limp with Ace of Hearts, 6 of Spades. I want to put some ace X in my limping range versus aggressive straddlers because I can get them to make aggression mistakes. The straddle now raises to $20, and I make the call, and we go to a flop which comes Jack of Hearts, Six of Clubs, Five of Hearts. I check and flow, and he goes near pot for $40. He's going to have plenty of hands here that are just stabbing, so I should be ahead of a decent amount of his range. So I make the call, and plus when I flop a pair and a backdoor flush draw blind versus blind, I'm just not folding. The turn comes the Six of Hearts, so we make trips and pick up the nut flush draw. I continue to check and flow, and now he slows down and checks. The river comes the Four of Hearts, which I'm not in love with, even though we make the nuts here. It's going to be harder to get value now from his overpairs, but I do want to target his hands that contain just a King of Hearts in them. So I pick what I think is a bad sizing here. I bet $90, two-thirds pot, and I think I should be going closer to 125 or 150 here. But anyways, I bet 90, and he makes the call, and we win the pot. This was a hand I played at Shuffle 512 in Austin, Texas. In this hand, we were playing 125. Two players limped, and I raised in the small blind to $30 with black queens. The big blind straddle and cutoff limper called. The flop comes 3-4-7 with two clubs. I bet for $60, targeting 7x flush draws and pair plus gut shot type hands. Only the straddle makes the call, and we go to a turn, which is the 8 of diamonds. Here, no new draws come in, so I decide to rip it all in for a slight overbet of 260. I don't think there's really any other sizing that makes sense here. I'm not going to play a dink and dunk game for two streets. I think I just have to put him to the test right here. He's never going to have aces or kings in this situation, so we should almost always be good in the moment. And so I rip it in, and he tanks for a while, but he ends up laying it down, and we scoop a decent pot.
We were playing 1-2 at Mandalay Bay, and it lifts to me in the hijack, and I raise to $8 with 6-4 of clubs, and I get 5 callers. So let's go to the flop. The flop is the 7 of clubs, the 5 of diamonds, and the 3 of diamonds. Checks to me, and I want to build a pot and start protecting against diamonds, so I bet $28, and we get 3 callers. Let's go to the turn. Turn is Jack of Spades. It's a good blank. Checks to me again, and now I bet for $62. Button folds. Now the earned gun goes all in for $203, and the middle position goes in for less. I call. Let's hope we hold. The river comes the 8 of hearts. Under a gun shows they had a set of fives. In middle position shows they had a flush draw, and we scooped with our flop straight. Okay, playing 1-2 at Mandalay Bay, and I'm in the low jack with ace king offsuit, and I raise to $13, and we get 4 callers. So let's go to the flop. The flop is the king of hearts, the 9 of spades, the 3 of clubs. It checks to me, and now I want to trap. There's not too many cards that I'm really going to hate on the turn, so I check to see if we can get paid even more. The turn is the ace of clubs. Checks to me again, and now that's our building a pot. So I bet $23 and I get 2 callers and middle position out. Check raises to 125. I go all in for less for 110 and the small blind folds. The river is the 6 of hearts. Middle position showed that they had ace 3 offsuit and we scoop with our ace king. So it's a good thing that we checked on the flop.
Soccer hooligans.
This is the Degenerate Gaming Life's added minutes, and we are talking Mauricio Pochettino today because, as we had covered before, he was announced as a United States men's national team head coach, but he was finally unveiled on Friday. So we're going to jump into some tidbits from his unveiling. But really quick, I just want to reiterate that I am a big fan of this signing for the United States men's national team. Mauricio Pochettino is a good coach. I wasn't happy when he was hired at Chelsea two years ago, but that's mainly because Chelsea holds a higher pedigree than the United States men's national team does. So the fact that the USMNT was able to hire a coach of this caliber is absolutely awesome, wonderful, and I can't wait to see how he gets started at the international level of coaching. But some of the tidbits, like I said, we will get into from Friday's unveiling is that Poch plans to get to know the players on more of a personal level. He quoted saying, "The player needs to feel that you care. When the player feels that you care, you can get more out of them." And that is so true. A lot of times coaches come in and they just try to impose their system on players, and players don't respond well, or there's no care what's going outside of the game for them. and the players start to, they go off their own way. So Poch, he knows he's got to get these players on his side. He's got to get to know them because that's when you're going to be able to connect with them more and get the most out of them. He talks about recovering the confidence of players and that there is a good generation of talent here. There is definitely a good generation of talent here. And what we mean by recovering the confidence is because they were on an upward trajectory. 2022 World Cup, they did really well, but they seem to have taken a few steps back, and that is not good for the program. And speaking of World Cup, let's talk the United States women's national team because Pochettino said he wants to draw inspiration from them. He's quoted as saying, "One of the most important things that we can be inspired by is the women's team. We have Emma Hayes, which for me is the best coach in the world, and the women's team in history has won everything. They really have won everything. There has been 9 women's World Cups. They've won 4 of them. Took second place once and took third place 3 times. There was only one time that they didn't finish in the top 3. And as a matter of fact, that was the last World Cup in 2023. So they're obviously on a good trajectory. And this is where the men's team needs to draw inspiration from as an international team. And they should be able to do that. Oh, yeah, not to mention, there's been 8 women's Olympics. They've won 5 golds, 1 silver, 1 bronze. So they're absolutely dominant on the international level, and that's what every international committee should aspire to be. Hope you guys have a good week.
Tyler Holton has been dominant out of the bullpen for the Detroit Tigers, and he is a must-add in holds leagues this week. Holton mixes 5 different pitches that make him unpredictable, which has led to a high ground ball rate and lots of soft contact. His exceptional control allows him to not walk batters, which keeps his ERA and WHIP low. And he will help your team in 3 to 4 different pitching categories each week. And I think he could help make the difference between a first and second place roster. At the plate, I like Jose Tena of the Washington Nationals. Tena was acquired in a trade with the Guardians for Lane Thomas, and he's excelled in his first real big league opportunity, batting .304 and adding 5 steals. Tena will hit for a high average and score runs while hitting the occasional homer. His positional flexibility is also nice as you can play him at either third base or shortstop. So if you need help at either position, I'd suggest picking him up.
Okay, thank you so much for watching to the end. If you haven't yet, please take a moment, hit that like, comment, subscribe. And if you do not know yet, on Saturdays we are dropping our start sits for the week. So check that out to make sure that you're watching, seeing the players you should be starting and sitting for fantasy football. And at 11 a.m. Central Time, we go live to kind of give you the best updates of what's going on for fantasy football. So check that out. We have our store. Go there, get some DGL merch, and have a great week.